Klein Public Access. It is great to be here to celebrate Shabbat with everybody on this Shabbat before Purim, known as Shabbat Zachor. We're going to be led this evening by myself, Rabbi Daniel Schaefer, our music educator, Josh Cohen, and our rabbinic intern, Naomi Gertland. And we've got some wonderful help here tonight. We're very grateful to have Daria here with us, to have Karen ushering, and to have Josiah and Adam holding it down. So we've got a wonderful crew, and it is so wonderful to be together. We're going to begin on page 10 with Hine Matov.
Hine Matov u'manayim Shevet hachim gam yachad. 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 Matov u'manayim Shevet hachim gam yachad.
Shabbat Shalom and welcome. If you read my Shabbat message this morning, which was titled, "Sometimes It Feels Good to Boo," a statement that I stand by, I just wanted to offer an addendum to everybody who's here in person, which was, it's not an invitation to boo me tonight. It's a specific for Purim thing. I will say if you're on Zoom, you're welcome to boo to your heart's content. I won't hear you. I just hope that you don't feel that way. But we are approaching a holiday of Purim. It is a time to be silly. It's a time to be fun. And we're excited for everything that's coming up in the next week. Tomorrow we're going to gather for a variety show in the evening and with our preschoolers in the afternoon. And next Wednesday we're going to have the opportunity to gather here in the chapel and to hear the Megillah read. And I'm going to share a little bit more about Purim this evening. But first, Shabbat stands alone. Shabbat is a special day. And so we are going to bring it in and to hopefully bring in that sense of peace, of calm, of serenity, and to be able to enjoy 25 hours together of peace. We'll join together in lighting the Shabbat candles, which can be found on page 2. And if you have candles at home, I welcome you to bring them to the screen and join us in lighting.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lechad likner shel Shammai.
We continue to welcome in Shabbat on page 24 with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Asharet, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malachi Amalachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. One more time. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Asharet, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malachi Amalachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Asharet, Malachi Elyon. מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. בוא לכם שלום, מלכי השלום, מלכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ברכוני לשלום, מלכי השלום, מלכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתכם לשלום, מלכי השלום, מלכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 17. Let's exalt together, Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'ishtachavu, Lechar Kodsho, Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'ishtachavu, Lechar Kodsho, Ki Kadosh, Ki Kadosh, Ki Kadosh, oh, Ki Kadosh, Adonai Eloheinu, yeah, Ki Kadosh, Ki Kadosh, Ki Kadosh, Adonai Eloheinu, Romemu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'ishtachavu, Lechar Kodsho, Romemu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'ishtachavu, Lechar Kodsho.
It's my pleasure to welcome up our rabbinic intern, Naomi Gertlin, to lead us in Lecha Dodi.
Shabbat Shalom. I have literally been looking forward to this all week. To be together again, to be in this space again, and to welcome Shabbat is really a blessing. Lecha Dodi tells us that Shabbat is Makor HaBracha, a fountain of blessing. And I just want to wish all of us the spaciousness and the presence to welcome this fountain of blessing and to really enjoy these hours of Shabbat, the peace of Shabbat, as we sing about in Lecha Dodi and as hopefully we experience over the next 25 hours. Please join me on page 20 for Lecha Dodi. We will sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. You might have guessed that. The tune, I think, is a fairly new one to you, but it's super catchy, so I want to hear you by the end. All right, here we go. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela la 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 lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Hishmiyanu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shem u'l'tiferet v'l'tihila lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela la la lecha Dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela likrat Shabbat lechu v'neilcha ki mekor habracha meron נעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת, נקבל לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת, נקבלה לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, בואי בשלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובתולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת, נקבלה לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. You're welcome to be seated.
Thank you, Naomi. Tonight we're going to take a moment to say our Psalm for Shabbat, Psalm 92, and to sing those familiar lines, evoking the depth and subtlety that we get to experience on this day, where we have the opportunity to go a little slower, to put away some of those distractions, and to enjoy the beauty and the depth of all that is around us. We are on page 22 for Psalm 92, and you can find the single verse we'll sing together on page 342.
Hallelujah. 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 My God, Masechaya, Me'olam kumachshavu techa. Please sing any part you like. Magadlu Masechaya. Let's fill this room. Keep singing it out. Keep singing it out. Magadu Masechaya Me'olam kumachshavu techa. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
We turn together to page 28 for the Baruch Hu, and we rise in body or spirit for the call to worship. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. We're welcome to be seated. If you're with us in the chapel, I just ask that you remain masked during the service, that Josh and I and Naomi, when she's up here, have been tested before the service so that we took off our masks, but otherwise we ask everybody to stay masked while we're together inside. Thank you. We're going to sing a song that's not in the books right now, but is familiar to people who've been coming to Shabbat, and if it's the first time you've heard it, hopefully it'll become familiar. It is a modern adaptation of the Ma'ariv Aravim prayer called Roll into Dark. And I'd just like to imagine that when our ancestors created this blessing, giving thanks to God for bringing on the evening, they had no way to imagine that there would one day be daylight savings time and that humans would find a way to change the cycles of nature just a little bit. We give thanks for those cycles the way that they are. No matter what time it says on the clock, we can sense the slow coming on of the light, a little bit more light in our lives, but still the dark, the evening, brings value and brings beauty. We sing together these words written by Noam Katz.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Gohorei yom v'layla, gohorei or mipnei choshech, gohorei or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into night. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Gohorei yom v'layla, gohorei or mipnei choshech, gohorei or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, v'choshech mipnei or, v'choshech mipnei or.
Baruch atah Adonai HaMa'ariv Aravim. Page 32, Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam Made Israel Amcha Havta Amcha Havta Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadta, otanu limadta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbeinu u'kimeinu naseach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'mitzvotecha le'olam. אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. אוהב עמו ישראל.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Page 36. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta ba'am v'shivtecha b'beitecha ובלכתך בדרך, ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם emet. In this moment before we sing Mi Chamocha, just want to invite you to imagine that moment before the Israelites sang Mi Chamocha, when they were trapped on the sea, the edge of the Sea of Reeds, water on one side, Pharaoh and his army coming down on the other, no place to go, death in either direction, a sense of constriction, of tightness, of maybe hopelessness. And to just sit in that place of, where do I go? Where do I turn? Where will be my redemption? Before we let go, and feel that sea just part, and that openness come, and that chance to walk through to freedom, and to feel that spaciousness, to feel that openness, and that sense of joy and redemption. We sing together, we bring in that joy on page 40, Mi Chamocha.
Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, You better go, why not? You're alive. You're alive, you're alive, you're alive, you're alive, you're Let's put some Hebrew to it. Nichamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. You gotta try. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. One more time. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. Who is like you? Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Mechamocha, fill this room. Mechamocha, Ba'elim Adonai, Mechamocha, Nidar B'Kodesh. Noratehilot, O Sefer, Noratehilot, O Sefer, Yailai, 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 Nicely done.
Just have to say, I know Purim is next and Passover is still a month away, but I'm very excited. We were saying together the walking through the sea.
Yeah, the freedom.
And when we were on Zoom, people got really into it. And as we get closer to Passover, we're going to have
Let's
to sing
do it,
that
Rabbi.
again.
I'm so
and
pumped.
I hope those dance movements translate to the chapel, too. You can't,
Unbelievable. We'll work on it. We'll work on
can't
it.
just
Yeah,
be
yeah.
from the safety of your
Yeah.
Zoom screen. All right.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a moment to make a prayer for peace, a prayer for shelter over the Jewish people, over Jerusalem, and over the whole world. Page 42, Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu et Shalom, Hamidenu Shomrenu Lechaim, Hashkivenu, Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred. Shield us from hatred, sorrow and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Ha'amidenu shomreinu lechaim. Save us for the sake. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred. Shield us from hatred. You got it. Sorrow and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Lehamidenu shomreinu lechaim, lechaim. One more time, lechaim,
One of the things that I love about Jewish prayer is the diversity of ways that we pray. And sometimes we want to be together saying the same words at the same time in the same key. And we feel it if we're not in sync with each other. And other times, we want to go to the same place in the same direction, but at our own speed. And everybody can take as much time as they need, and we trust that we're all going to end up in the same place together. And I think the place we get to experience that the most is during the Amidah. And we're going to start together. We're going to start in sync as much as I can keep you with me. And then we're going to have that spaciousness, that quiet time. And that's our opportunity to offer our own private prayers, to go through the liturgy at a speed that we're comfortable with. And I invite you to take as much time tonight and any night as you need to complete your own prayers. And eventually we'll join together with Ohabei Shalom, our prayer for peace. We turn together to page 46, and I invite you to rise for the Amidah in body or spirit.
Hanan 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 Adonai. Hanan 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 Svatai Chitach. Hanan 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 Ufi Agid. Svatai Chiptach, and Ufi Agid, Teila Techa.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imaot, Umevi Geula Libnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Meimit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, B'ne'eman Atah L'Hachayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaKol. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kadoshim V'Chol Yom Yihallelu Chasela, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Say shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, amen. Sing it out, yallaleh, yallaleh. One more time through, yay!
It's good to pray for peace. Never a bad time. And it's always a good time to pray for healing of friends and loved ones and members of our community. And we're going to turn to page 253 in our prayer book to say Misha Berach. If you're at home and you want to share the name of a loved one in the chat, we're happy to share it in this space here. And if you're with us in person and want to share the name of a loved one, please raise your hand or stand and let us know who you're saying it for. Karen?
Naomi Fisher and John Singleton.
Thank you. Spence? Thank you. Thank you. I'm bad with technology. Can you fix that again?
Always. That's what I'm here for, Rabbi, literally.
Thank you. As a community, we add the names of Alice Newton, of Miriam Bat Sarah, Bina Golda Bat Rivka V'Yitzhak, Tuvia Ben Yerucham Lazer, Chaim Mesha, Dahlia Bat Miriam, Asher Daniel Ben Leah, Dina Rachel Bat Aryeh Vigalia, Chaya Blima Bat Chaim Chia Vasilia Ruchel, Cassandra Warshawski, Jeffrey Colt, Joseph Siegel, Yosef Ben Herschel Verut, and Glenn Abab. And we add the names of Steve Fromm, Zita's daughter-in-law's parents in the Ukraine, of course thinking about everybody in the Ukraine right now, and of Ariana, Susan, Liesel, and Jerry. We join together in the middle of page 253, and we say Misha Berach.
Sheberach Avoteinu Mekor Abracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And let us say, and let us say,
Pray for refuah shlema, a complete and speedy recovery for all those on our hearts and minds and all those whose presence was invoked this evening. There are 4 mitzvot that we are supposed to do on Purim. One is hearing the Megillah, which you can do next Wednesday with us. 2 is eating a festive meal, which you'll have to organize on your own. The 3rd is giving tzedakah, matanot le'evyonin, gifts to the poor. And the 4th is giving mishloach manot, Purim gift bags of food and drink, ready-to-eat snacks that you can do at home and give to anybody you like to help spread joy on Purim. But many people act as if there is a 5th mitzvot, which is to get drunk. This is based on a statement in the Babylonian Talmud that is attributed to the sage Rava in Tractate Megillah. Rava said, a person is obligated to become intoxicated with wine on Purim until he is so intoxicated that he does not know how to distinguish between cursed is Haman and blessed is Mordechai. Quite a powerful statement that many of us have probably heard. Why would we want to drink to the point where we can't tell the difference between the evil Haman and our beloved hero Mordechai? We're going to get back to that in a little bit. But certainly if you go to any number of Purim celebrations today, especially amongst young adults, you will notice that they take this 5th mitzvot quite seriously and that there is quite a bit of partying and celebration. But I read something this week that completely upended my view of this statement and of Purim. And that's a good thing because Purim is all about turning things upside down. And it comes from a friend and a classmate from the Rabbinical School of Hebrew College, Rabbi Ayalon Eliach. And he wrote up his analysis in a column in Haaretz a few years ago. He sent it to me and I just put it in my archives, but had this special occasion to read it this year. And if you want to see his argument in his words, you can go to Haaretz and find it, or you can find his source sheet on Sefaria. And I should say that Rabbi Eliach is one of the smartest and most creative thinkers that I know. I trust almost anything he says without verifying, but I did verify, and I went through his sources to understand where he took his argument from. Because I have always taken Rava's argument at face value, that one should drink and be festive and merry until you can't tell the difference between Haman and Mordechai. And drinking seems to fit in with the themes of revelry and joy on Purim. But Rabbi Eliach did not accept this statement at face value, since the statement is immediately followed in the Talmud by a brief story about a sage with a too similar a name to Rava, and that is Rabbah. There's one letter difference in the Hebrew. And this story is about Rabbah and Rabbi Zerah, who got so intoxicated one Purim that Rabbah actually kills Rabbi Zerah and then has to perform a miracle to bring him back to life. And then Rabbah goes to see Rabbi Zerah and says, hey, wasn't that so fun? Do you want to do Purim together again? And Rabbi Zerah very politely and wisely declines. So that seems to indicate that maybe we shouldn't take Rava's statement about drinking at face value. Because why would drinking be so good if it's immediately followed by a story of drinking leading to murder? So Rabbi Eliach went through the Talmud and he studied all of Rabbah's statements on drinking, on Purim, and especially on Mordechai. And in doing so, he offers a completely different understanding of the Purim story and the purpose of drinking. And I have to say, this week, it left me shook. Once I read it, I just couldn't see it any other way. And it kind of goes against everything I've known about Purim and how I've celebrated it. And I'm still processing, and that is why I'm sharing with you this evening. So first, he found a statement in the Talmud that Rabbah says he believes that wine and incense help people to achieve deeper insight. So the purpose of drinking was not to become inebriated, but rather to sharpen the mind and not incapacitate it. And Rabbi Eliach argues, to recognize the similarity between Haman and Mordechai, there has to be some purpose for that, some value. If you're not so familiar with the Purim story, Mordechai is the uncle of Queen Esther, who gets her to enter the beauty pageant, which leads her to marry the king Ahasuerus. And when Haman sends out an edict that everybody must bow down to him, Mordechai refuses to bow down. And we take this as a sign of Mordechai's piety and devotion to Judaism, devotion to God, that he refused to bow down to an evil person, but certainly to a human being, since he would only bow down to the one true God. And in the end, we think Mordechai is our hero. He stood up against this command to blindly do something he didn't believe in. He stayed true to his values. And in the end, he was proven right, because even though Haman tries to wipe out the Jews, in the end, they are saved. However, Rabbah saw it quite differently. He saw Mordechai's refusal to bow not as an act of piety, but rather an act of jealousy toward Haman. He understood that both Haman and Mordechai were ministers in King Ahasuerus' government. They were competing for power and prestige. And at some point, Haman was elevated over Mordechai. And so Mordechai's anger and his refusal to bow to Haman was not an act on behalf of the Jewish people and in support of God. Rather, it was a petty act of defiance against his rival, an unwillingness to acknowledge that he had been bettered by somebody else. This is not the majority view, I should say. Rabbah is here in the minority. And he's also in the minority on the opinion that the majority view in the Talmud and in Jewish tradition is that one should die rather than worship idolatry. It's one of the three things that says you're not supposed to do, even if you are threatened with death. But Rabbah disagrees with that. He believed that the worship of idolatry under duress was not actually worship, unless the practitioner truly believed in this idolatrous deity. And so while that might go against one of the core understandings many of us have of Judaism, it has actually been practiced quite a bit in the not-so-distant past. We think of the Jews of Spain who were forced to convert in the Inquisition, and how they adopted Christian practices in public, and in private they maintained their own Jewish practice. What they did in public was necessary to survive, and it wasn't something that was worth dying for. It was better to preserve their own life than to die en masse. So Rabbi Eliach, looking through Rabbah's statements, really argues that what is happening here is an act of pride, and that actually what Mordechai is doing is not something we should emulate, that it's actually quite dangerous, and that if we are unwilling to bow down due to our own pride, we risk putting other people's lives in jeopardy. And that what Mordechai actually did in the story was put the lives of the entire Jewish people at risk. If he had just bowed down, the Jewish people would not have faced persecution, but rather because of his own petty grievance with a rival, he took this act that threatened the lives of others. And Rabbah's position is that is not worth it. And I think about the many times in our lives where our own pride gets in the way of whatever we're trying to accomplish. Whatever conflict we might have with an individual, we're unwilling to put that difference aside for the sake of the larger good. And what Rava and Rabbi Eliach are arguing is that actually that is what is required here. So to give you Rabbi Eliach's own words, he says, "For me, the heroic, brave Mordechai of my childhood is gone. I now understand him as the paradigm of those who feign religious devotion at the expense of others as a pretext for gaining power. Sadly, our society is all too familiar with people like this. At times, it can even appear as though their duplicity, as well as the pain they cause, dominate humanity. Purim has become a day on which I celebrate the fact that despite the prevalence of Mordechais in the world, decency and honesty still prevail." So I don't know if I was as convincing as Rabbi Eliach, and if you want to be convinced further, go to Haaretz and read what he says. But I should just also add, Rava is here in the minority. I don't mean to diminish the Mordechai that we've known all our lives, the hero who stands up against evil and against Haman. That is very much the dominant view of tradition. But I think there is a bit of wisdom in what Rabbi Eliach and Rava assert, which is that we should never let our pride get in the way of accomplishing something greater, and we should never let our pride put those that we care about in danger. And to me, that is worth lifting up, no matter how we understand the story. I hope you'll bring your own understanding of Purim to our celebrations this weekend and next Saturday. We're going to have an opportunity to hear the Purim story on Wednesday and to celebrate with a variety show tomorrow night. And I will be wearing my costume. Josh will be wearing a costume. And there are some amazing acts tomorrow night. And we're going to be joined by members of Shir Hadash on Wednesday to hear and to act out the Megillah. It's my pleasure to invite up our rabbinic intern, Naomi Gertlin, to help lead us in the conclusion of the service this evening. We turn to page 282 in our prayer books for Aleinu, and we rise in body or spirit.
Thank you, Rabbi. Aleinu connects a little bit to the multiple points of view that you were sharing with us, Rabbi Schaefer, in that it gives us this vision of partnership. Aleinu, it's on us, l'shabeach la'adon hakol, to rejoice in the force that binds us all. So it's a team. Everybody has a role to play. And with that, let us continue with Aleinu on page 282. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוצר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Feel free to sit. When I die, give what's left of me away, to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. We turn our thoughts to those loved ones who have left us, either at this time in years past or who are recently departed. If you are saying Kaddish today for a loved one, please feel free to stand and share that person's name if you would like.
Marilyn Ballard, and dear friend Renee Daly, and Janine Morgan.
Thank you, Spence. Is there anybody on the Zoom? Oh, so sorry.
Dr. Richard Gouya.
Thank you. Alvin Glazerman. Thank you. We will continue with Kaddish on page 294. If it is your custom to rise, please do so. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shemei rabbah mevorach le'alam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata ta'miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May their memories be a blessing always.
Thank you. We're welcome to be seated. Thank you, Naomi, for being with us and leading this evening, and thank you to Josh. Always a pleasure to lead with both of you. A special thank you to the members of our AV club, Adam and Josiah, for rocking the tech and making sure that everybody all around the world can join in on our service and participate this evening. And thank you to Daria and to Karen for helping welcome people this evening. As I've mentioned a few times, Purim is coming up. First there's Shabbat morning services tomorrow morning in the chapel and online with Shir Chadash and members of TOS. We will be beginning the book of Leviticus, so there will be an opportunity to pray and learn together tomorrow. At 3:30, all of our preschool-aged kids and families are welcome for TCE Purim Family Fun. That is here in person. And at 6:30, the Purim Variety Show is both in person in the sanctuary and online. I hope you'll be able to join us. And Wednesday, please note the early time, 6 p.m., we are going to celebrate Purim here. So grab a snack before, come down, hear the Megillah, get out those boos. I know it feels good.
You mean booze like calling out boo, not booze like for drinking?
Yeah, yes. An important clarification. You can booze before and then boo here.
Right.
Yes. Very important difference.
It's an important planning note.
Yes. And next Friday, we're going to celebrate a very significant milestone. It is the 100th anniversary of the first bat mitzvah. We invite anybody who's had a bat mitzvah at TOS to join us In celebrating this milestone, of course, everybody is welcome. You do not have to have had a bat mitzvah here to participate, but we will be honoring everybody who did next Friday night, along with communities around the world. And we are going to conclude tonight with Kiddush and Motzi, which can be found on page 5.
All right.
And they could be, please rise for Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim ki vanu v'charta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen.
L'chaim.
Chaim.
An excellent vintage.
Only the best.
Only the finest.
And we've got some challah here tonight. We invite you to grab some challah and grape juice on your way out and enjoy it. And Naomi's going to lead us in the motzi blessing over the challah. After,
Pause for unwrapping the challah.
there should be a blessing for unwrapping the challah.
I'm sure there is one, they just haven't taught us
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
Have to keep going back. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. We're going to conclude this evening. We're welcome to be seated if we'd like with another prayer for peace, because we can never have enough prayers for peace. It can be found on page 353, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Salam, Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Sing it out, oh Yavod. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam, Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam. Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Say goodbye to our friends on the live stream. And everybody is welcome to stick around and chat on the Zoom. and to chat, of course, in person. So good to be together with you.